Hi guys and welcome back. Today's going to be a little bit of a product review slash testing out new art supplies. First things first, I did actually buy these, so this is 100% just me having fun with new stuff, but I do have a link in the description to what actual pen pack I got, but these are just paper mates and they have a felt tip, and I loved the color range for these ones. I think it's Candy Pop is what it's called, and it's limited edition, but that's a big thing is I really wanted this because almost every single one of these pens I knew I would love, and it was absolutely the kind of colors that I already use. So I picked this up, and recently I've been sketching a lot with a fine tip Sharpie. I found that it's really freeing to use that Sharpie because it's not something that I can erase, and because it's a solid width of line, I can just sit down and have fun just expressing shapes rather than getting really finicky with the specific little details. So it's kind of given me a lot of enjoyment lately. These ones, I don't know if I mentioned, they are felt tip, but they're pretty small. They're smaller than the fine or the super fine Sharpies. And I tried it on Bristol board first, and cardstock as well, actually. And I actually prefer it on the sketchbook paper where it's slightly textured and it is thicker to accommodate more of a water-based medium. And I did prefer it a lot more with the textured paper because I found that on the really smooth stuff, it sucked the ink a little bit. It didn't really bleed, but I did get a lot more of a thick, uncontrollable line, and when I layered these on top of each other, they really ate into the paper a lot more, whereas on the sketchbook, I found that it took it really well, and I was able to go over it multiple times with the same marker with a different color, and that was a really cool effect, blending the two colors together. So I had a lot more fun sketching on the textured paper that could take this markers. I do believe that I'm like 99% sure that they are water-based markers. I didn't actually end up testing them, but in other experiences with pens like these, I have found that they're not waterproof and they're usually not Copic proof, but I'll have to test them and bring that up in the future, but I am like pretty sure they're not, which is totally fine by me because it means that I can just take these and utilize all of the markers and just create finished sketches with these specifically. And today I started off with a really light sketch that I used my gray Coley Race pencil for. I'm kind of on the fence with whether I like to start with a sketch before I dive in with like marker sketches like this or not. I find that when I do, I'm able to have a piece that I'm much more happy with overall, but when I just go in with sketching with the markers, it's a lot more freeing, so I'm able to see things that I didn't have planned happen. So I kind of changed things up a little bit, but today I did start off with a really light little sketch so that I'd have a basis of what I wanted to draw, and that did actually really help. I did think through what I wanted to do with these pens, and I think that that's important for me is to know what the capabilities of these are before I sketch it out, because I have done that in the past where I've sketched something that, say, has really fine detailing, and then I use a pen that I'm just not very good at it, like a brush pen. I'm not very good at getting really fine details with those. So I did actually spend quite a while playing with these. There's a page before this one that's just covered with sketching and drawing with these so that I could get a feel of how they handled. So when I sketched this, I wanted to emphasize short built-up lines. That's actually the kind of texture that I really love creating with these pens, is just building up these like spurts of sketchiness. And it's a kind of look that I don't get in my pencil work because I treat it differently, and it is really fun to be able to treat what I'm doing specifically to match the medium that I'm using. So I had a lot of fun matching the actual, or the pen strokes that I was using to the pens themselves. And I also wanted to balance out the hatching that happened in this piece, so it wasn't too overwhelming. So hatching, in case you don't know, is just a way to build up either color in this case or value or shading with parallel lines that happen right next to each other. And I didn't want it to get too overwhelming or too dizzying to the eye to look at it, so I tried to do it in a specific way where it emphasized certain things or certain textures, and then other areas where it wasn't necessary, I left it off to give it a little bit of a break for the eye. And I think that that's important when it comes to doing any kind of cross-hatching, even when you're doing more of a finished piece with pen and ink, is just to analyze and make sure that the eye has places to rest so that it's just not too overwhelming. I actually used to do a lot more hatching when I did my pen and ink stuff, and I've slowly pulled away from it now that I've gotten more into doing things like watercolor, because now I use the watercolor to shade it. But this was actually really fun to get back into that, because I love building up that kind of a value and looking for areas that I can begin putting values in while I'm sketching or while I'm drawing it out. So that was a fun thing to get back into. I also really enjoyed being able to have a really wide range of pens that I could use from as far as colors, but I also really enjoyed how they mesh so well together. Like I talked about earlier, how I could layer them on top of each other. Because of this paper, I was able to get some really interesting colors and looks that separately I wasn't able to get as much dimension in. So I had a lot of fun being able to build that up and experiment with that. I had a separate sheet where I would layer the two different colors or several colors together to see what the final result would be. And I do think that it adds a lot of interest to the sketch, and it made it really fun for me to be able to play with that. I had a lot of fun looking for areas that I could have the same color so that the eye would bounce around the piece and not get stuck in one place. And that was the fun thing about the line work being colored and being able to reinforce it with other colors, is that it was all very interactive as I was working on it. And because I was layering, it wasn't that once I put one color down, I wasn't able to adapt it, because there were several areas, especially with like this green color, where after I had finished an area, I was able to go back in and build it up on top of the other line work, and then it had that hint and it tied together in a really fun way where it didn't feel like there was too many colors happening. It felt a lot more coordinated. I mean, it is a sketch, to be clear, so it by no means is perfectly coordinated, perfectly color balanced, but it was fun to look for places that I could include other colors that I've used in other places on that piece. That's a big thing when you're pretty much using any kind of art, actually, is looking for places that you can have similar colors or things that are the same color, different items, like the whatever in this bottle that she has, that green, and then having it mimicked in her hair and then having it reflect in other areas. That just helps it look much more cohesive than having every single item a separate color. And I am trying to pay attention to more details like that, or design elements that I can use to finish off sketches so that they do feel more completed. I do really want to be able to do pieces where I can look at it in my sketchbook and feel really good about that. And a lot of them feel a little bit orphaned, I guess, where they don't quite look completed yet. So little tricks, I guess you can say, like this sky, that kind of a design element is something that I'm really looking into, and I'm studying other artists and seeing how they do things like that. So hopefully I'll get a little bit more practice on that and enacting that kind of a thing. I do think that her dress, though, is the one area that I could have left it at an earlier stage and it would have looked a lot better. When I started adding a lot more of the hatching of the black on top of the yellow, then it just got too much, and then I tried to really finish it off with lots of black, and then it was just really just too far gone at that point. And I think I liked it best when I had almost no black on the dress and it was just the small light yellow lines on it. But that's the benefit of being able to see the process of a sketch, to be able to pinpoint at what point it was its best self. So I'll remember that in the future. I did end up taking out a Copic marker, and I'll cover up that dress so that it doesn't have as dizzying of an effect of having all of those black hatched lines, especially where they don't perfectly line up. So once I just made that a nice flat black, I think that it really improved the sketch from where it was before that. But yeah, I think if I had left it a little bit lighter and freer with just the yellow stuff, I think that it would have been a little bit more preferred. And that's it for today's little witch sketch. I would actually really recommend these pens. I had a lot of fun using them. They're really easy to jump into and enjoyable to use, and I got a lot of colors for the price point. I think that I got mine for $13 at Walmart. I think they have them at pretty much all Walmart, so it's very accessible. I do have a link in the description that'll take you to the Amazon listing for it, though, if you would like to go check it out there. But yeah, I love them. I think I'm probably going to carry them around and do most of my sketching for the next little while with these pens. But I do post every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so if you'd like to hit the subscribe button as well as that bell button, you can get more of these stuff. Actually, this week, though, I will be posting on Friday instead of Saturday because it's the YouTube Artist Collective again. And I'll talk all more about that next time. So if you don't know what that is, I'll talk about it. But it is going to launch Friday, and the theme is Zodiac. So if anyone else wants to participate, you can do that as an unofficial member. So just hashtag it, hashtag YTAC, and we'll be able to see it. And I love that. You can also put videos up, whatever form of social media you like to use. But yeah, again, Zodiac. So I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching.